July 16, 1969. Kennedy Space Center, Florida. Neil Armstrong climbs into the command module Columbia and settles into the left couch. Beside him, Michael Collins and Buzz Aldrin prepare for launch. Beneath them, the Saturn V rocket waits on pad 39A at 9:32 am. The engines ignite. Hold down arms, release the vehicle. The rocket rises slowly at first, then clears the tower with millions of pounds of thrust. Across the coast, spectators watch a white flame push 3 men toward the moon. Within minutes, the first stage falls away. The second stage carries them higher. Then the third stage places Apollo 11 into Earth orbit. For 1.5 revolutions, the crew checks systems. Then Mission Control gives the order for translunar injection. The third stage fires again. Earth begins to shrink behind the windows. The spacecraft is no longer circling the planet. It is crossing the distance between worlds. Soon afterward, Collins separates Columbia from the spent stage. He turns the command module around, docks with the lunar module Eagle, and pulls it free. The two spacecraft now fly joined nose to nose. Inside the narrow cabins, the crew checks guidance, oxygen, power, and communications. Every checklist matters because the moon offers no repair shop. For 3 days, Apollo 11 travels through deep space. The astronauts sleep in shifts, broadcast television pictures, and watch Earth become a blue disk. Small course corrections refine the path. Mission Control in Houston tracks the spacecraft through antennas on Earth. What looks quiet from outside is constant measurement. On July 19, Apollo 11 reaches lunar orbit. The service propulsion engine fires behind the moon, where radio contact is temporarily lost. When the spacecraft returns to signal, it is captured by lunar gravity. Below the windows, craters, ridges, and gray plains slide past in silence. On July 20, Armstrong and Aldrin enter Eagle. Collins remains alone in Columbia. The lunar module separates and begins its descent toward the Sea of Tranquility. At first, the landing is controlled by computer guidance. Then alarms appear. Program alarm 1202, then 1201. In Houston, guidance officer Steve Bales and his team determine that the computer is overloaded but still working. The landing continues. As Eagle descends, Armstrong sees that the planned landing area is covered with boulders. He takes partial manual control and flies forward. Fuel is running low. Mission Control calls out the seconds remaining. Dust rises beneath the engine. Then contact probes touch the surface. At 4:17 p.m. Eastern Time, Armstrong reports that Eagle has landed. The words travel across space and into history. Inside the lunar module, the crew has little remaining fuel. Outside, the moon is still untouched by human footprints. Several hours later, Armstrong opens the hatch. A television camera begins sending a ghostly image to Earth. He climbs down the ladder and pauses on the footpad. At 10:56 p.m. Eastern Time, he steps onto the lunar surface. Aldrin joins him soon afterward and describes the view as magnificent desolation. The astronauts work within a tight timeline. They collect rocks and soil. They take photographs. They deploy a solar wind experiment, a seismometer, and a laser reflector. They plant an American flag, speak briefly with President Richard Nixon, and move carefully in 1/6 gravity. Every movement is slow because the suits are stiff and the surface is unfamiliar. Aldrin re-enters Eagle first. Armstrong follows. The sample boxes, cameras, film, and checklists come inside with them. The ascent engine must work or they will remain on the moon. Before launch, a broken circuit breaker threatens the engine arming system. Aldrin later said he used a felt-tip pen to press the switch. On July 21, Eagle lifts off from the lunar surface. The descent stage stays behind. The ascent stage climbs into lunar orbit and meets Columbia. Collins performs the docking. Armstrong and Aldrin transfer the samples and equipment back into the command module. Then Eagle is released. Apollo 11 leaves lunar orbit and heads home. The moon recedes behind them. Earth grows larger each hour. On July 24, the command module separates from the service module and enters the atmosphere. Plasma surrounds the spacecraft. Radio contact drops out. Then parachutes open above the Pacific Ocean. Columbia splashes down southeast of Hawaii. Recovery crews from USS Hornet arrive. The astronauts are lifted from the sea and placed into quarantine because scientists still treat lunar contamination as remote. The rocks are sealed, the spacecraft is recovered, the mission is complete. Apollo 11 was measured in engines, alarms, checklists, fuel, and radio signals. It was also measured in silence because every moment depended on machinery working where no human had stood before. The first footprint became an image. The last object was the checklist.